Hello and welcome to the Scatterable channel, and today let me show you what I think are the best budget PC cases in 2023 through the means of a tier list. Now don't get me wrong, I don't want this channel to turn into multiple tier list videos on my rankings on certain budget PC components, but this one over PC cases I think has quite a bit of relevancy. Those of you who are watching this video are probably wondering what is the best PC case I can get, say for under $75, that won't break the bank, but will still give me all the features that I want in a standard case, as well as maybe even having a bit of future proofing and potentially throwing in stronger and hotter and longer components, but also showing you what PC cases are totally trash and are somehow still selling on major online retailers, and pretty much avoiding those in any capacity you can. Now, disclaimer, I haven't had my experience with every single budget PC case ever made, but I feel like up until this point, I've had quite a bit of builds in many different budget PC cases. So if there isn't one that is shown on this tier list, it's probably irrelevant or just not even worth mentioning. So with all that said, I just want to let you know that all of the PC cases I'll be discussing in this video will be linked in the description down below, and I'm kind of lazy, so I'm only going to link the good ones. So we're gonna get right into the video, but first a quick word from our sponsor. If you're looking to upgrade from your stock cooler to something aftermarket, then take a look at Cooler Master's new Hyper 212 Halo. This is an update to their legendary 212 series of CPU coolers, now coming in either black or white, while featuring one of their MF120 RGB fans. Clocking in at a height of 154 millimeters, this should be universally acceptable in nearly any PC case you throw it in, all the while delivering excellent performance. But it doesn't end there, because Cooler Master also wants to show off their new V1100 SFX power supply. This new series of SFX power supplies from Cooler Master can support up to 1300 watts of power, which is unheard of in its class. It features one of the highest power densities on the market, and it's got so much wattage, you can even use it in a standard ATX case with its included ITX to ATX adapter. So with its excellent build quality and really good heat dissipation, it also comes with an ATX 3.0 power adapter. So if you wanted to chuck in an RTX 4000 GPU without any special adapters, you can do that with this SFX power supply. So if any of this interests you, then links can be found in the description below. So we're gonna start off this video with the brand new Phanteks G300A. I checked out this PC case at CES 2023. I've had positive experiences before with the P300 and the P300A, so seeing an update to that case that will fit modern day PC gaming standards with really long graphics cards and good airflow is really awesome to see. Now, yes, I haven't technically built in this PC case yet, but I have built in the P300 and the P300A before, and those cases were good as far as the building goes. I just think they were a little bit outdated. So this G300 update really is all this case needed to make it a really good contender for, get this, with 3 fans in the front, $70. That is the MSRP. And if you want one with just 1 rear fan in the back, that is $60. So at MSRP, this is an amazing value for an ATX case. But right now on Newegg and on Amazon, it's selling for about 70 bucks with a single rear fan. I don't know where the 3 fan model is. That maybe could be 80 bucks, but even then, it's still worth it. This can do a lot of what more expensive PC cases can do, just in a cheaper format that still has good build quality. So because of that, I gotta give the G300A, it's a little too early to do this, okay? But the G300A, it's a Phanteks case. And for its price, it is very outstanding. SS tier, that's where I'm gonna go ahead and put the G300A, but let me tell you 2 more things about it. Just like the H5 Flow, this has a little metal piece on the bottom where the bottom fan is that can help direct airflow to your graphics card, similar to the H5 Flow. And this is really beginner friendly, because not only is the backside of the PC case really clean and open to store all of your cables, but even the front panel connector is a singular connector. It's not divided up into all these little individual pins. So you can plug it into the front I/O of your motherboard and just know that it'll work no matter what. Just like the H5. But unlike the H5, this doesn't cost $95, which in a way is kind of out of the bounds of this video. I'm looking at cases that'll mostly cost below $75, but I thought I'd go ahead and mention the H5 Flow because it's gonna come up nonetheless. But I'm gonna save the ranking for that until the end of the video. We're gonna drag it all the way down here. because I think where I'll be putting that in this tier list might shock you. But what isn't shocking is the P200A. I worked with this PC case once before. It is an ITX case that is currently $60, but you can get with a $20 rebate and get that down to almost $40. That is kind of good. Now, the one downside is that this doesn't have a tempered glass side panel, so you can't see your components. It does offer a tempered glass version, but it's much more expensive and not worth it. And this case is a little bit funky. It's got the same DNA of the G300A, but So I'm gonna put the P200A for the moment in B tier. But now let's talk about this next one, the Lian Li 205M. I have had 2 experiences with this PC case before, and it is fantastic. I built a computer in it, and I reviewed a pre-built in it. And just letting you know, out of this entire tier list, the 205M by far has the best build quality. It's got 2 front 120mm fans, and the only issue with this case, and why I'm not gonna put it any higher than S tier, is because availability is a bit mixed for this PC case. If you live near a micro center, then this case is SS tier. But if you don't live near a micro center, then you're gonna have to look at your nearest you're gonna have to look at Newegg or Amazon, and the 205 usually goes for about 90 bucks. And at that point, it's still a really fantastic case, but more like A tier or B tier even. So I'm gonna put it in the middle and keep it at S tier, because if you can find it for 70 bucks, the build quality, the performance is really good. Oh, hey, we got it. One sec. Look at that. We have the Zalman Z1 Iceberg up next. This is what I used recently to build my $700 PC build video. Ignore the CPU cooler that's in there. I'm kind of doing some debugging on another computer, so I need that i5. But this case is solid. It is the definition of solid. The actual chassis is really good. It comes with 3 120mm fans, and my only 2 complaints with it are, 1, the front is flat, not mesh, which in hindsight isn't necessarily a bad thing. But what it does restrict you is the graphics card length. Because as you'll see later on in this video, there's a PC case that uses this exact same chassis from a different manufacturer, but the front is mesh, and it can allow you to fit fans at the front, in front of the actual chassis, which means you can fit a longer graphics card. So if this is running at about $60 on discount, it is a really good case, but right now it's for about $65, so I'm gonna give it a good A tier. Actually, wait. I'm gonna give it a good B tier, because there are some better micro ATX cases for about the same price in terms of performance and future proofing. But let's talk about some of the other Zalman cases in this video, like the R2. This is 60 bucks ATX, actually a pretty good value, but my only 2 issues with it is that the front panel, again, it's not mesh. You have 2 inserts on the side for your airflow, and they aren't exactly the best, because I did use this case before in a pre-built from Light, and it's okay. I think the strongest points of this case is that it's 60 bucks. That is really good for what you're getting, especially considering that the one fan that's included in here is ARGB. It is addressable, so you can change the color of it. But just letting you know, with this case in particular, the actual side panel that's used, I think it's acrylic glass. It's really dark, so it is a little bit troublesome if you want to display your components with a clear side panel like this. You won't find that in the R2. It's a bit dark, but still at $60, it's a pretty good value. So for that, I gotta give it a B tier. Then the R3 is basically the R2, but with a more clear side panel. I think better airflow support because the inserts on the side of the PC case are bigger. And I wanna say the overall quality is a little bit better because it is about $10 more expensive. So I'm gonna put that in A tier, just for the fact that you can actually see the components inside the Z3 over the R2. Oh, and then next up we got another case that I've used before in another PC build. This here is the Vetroo M03. It is about $70 right now. And this is basically the Zalman Z1 that I was just talking about, but it's better. So like I said, this one has a mesh front, as you can see right here, but it's kind of protruding. So if you wanted, I didn't technically do this in the PC, but you can move the fans from the inside of the PC case to the outside to allow for a longer graphics card. But just like the Z1, it's a solid case. The build experience is pretty positive, pretty good build quality. My only real complaint is that for $70, it does come with one ARGB fan on the back, but overall this case I think is still pretty solid, which means I'm gonna give it an A tier. Oh, but this next case, it's a funny one. So here is the Gamdias Zeus. So I used this case in a $1,000 gaming PC build, and the main reason why was because on the renders, as you can see here on Amazon, it looks really cool, but in person, not so much. The build quality is pretty meh, and the funniest thing is that for an ATX case, it is very skinny. The total graphics card length on this PC case is 300 millimeters, and I experienced that firsthand when I couldn't fit the Power Color Radeon RX 6750 XT I had planned for the build. And I instead had to use a 3060 Ti that barely fit. And with an ATX case, with having that kind of graphics card support in a case that overall just isn't the best built, if you want something that's future-proof, this isn't it. This is basically gonna be e-waste. I'm gonna give it a C tier. Don't let the $60 price tag fool you. But here's a case that is $60 and is actually really good for the money. This is the Zeus Gamdias ATX Mid Tower. So it's weird that these are basically the same in terms of pricing, but this one inherently is just better all around. It comes with 3 fans, 2 of those being 2 addressable 200 millimeter fans, which is pretty sick. And weirdly enough, the graphics card support is better than the other case we just talked about. You can technically fit up to, I think, a 340 millimeter graphics card, which is going to fit the majority of large graphics cards that are being released nowadays. So the fact that this comes with 2 much better RGB 200 millimeter fans that don't have to run at 100% all the time because they're so big, even with having actually now vertical graphics card support at the same price of the Zeus, in my opinion, ranks it higher. Yes, it does have a glass front, but there is that insert in between the glass and the actual case that can bring in some air. So it's not perfect in terms of front case airflow, but not bad. So I'm gonna put the Apollo in A tier. Ooh, okay, let's get another case. Whew. All right, so let's get into some Deepcool cases, starting with the CH370. This case, I think, retails for about $62, $64 on Newegg. It's a very capable case. I'll just keep it at that. This is the sort of system I put together that I'm soon going to be selling. And this is a $64 case holding an AIO, a 6800, an i5, a full-on micro ATX motherboard, and it has room to spare. So I'm pretty happy with the CH370. It's very similar to the Macube 110, which we'll talk about soon. But this has a mesh front with a dust panel, so that's pretty neat. But what's really cool about the CH370 is the build quality is outstanding. And here's actually one of my favorite parts about the PC case. Taking off the side panel, so easy. It's like a tab held with magnets. And you get this little headphone rest right here if you want to throw on your headphones after a hard session of gaming or whatever. So the CH370 is a very capable case. Although for its price, I would have liked to have seen more included fans, but the chassis itself is really solid. I gotta give it an A tier, but I'm gonna move it at the top. So here are the other Deepcool cases we'll be covering, starting with the Macube 110, $63. Basically this case, just without a mesh front panel. As you can see, I don't know where you're gonna bring in airflow. Good luck with that. Even on the backside, like I said, good luck with that. That alone really tanks the value of this case, especially if you can get the CH370 for the same price. And for that, unless you want a quiet PC case, I gotta give it a C tier. And then here's Deepcool's next case, the Matrexx 40. This has 3 fans, but they're not addressable, so it's gonna be a constant fixed RGB LED, and I'm not too sure if I remember if these were Molex powered or they were actual fan headers that you plug into the motherboard. I think they're Molex powered, which means they're gonna run at the same RGB color at the same fan speed no matter what. And unlike how excellent the CH370 and Macube 110 are in terms of build quality, the Matrix 40 is kind of poopy. I wasn't the most impressed with it. Even though the front panel will technically let in air, the CH370 is going to do a better job at that. So even though this does include 2 more fans that are technically RGB, it doesn't impress me as much. So I'm going to give it a C tier. Ah, look at that, another case I've used before. You see, this is why I'm making this video. Okay, this here is the Silverstone Fara H1M. Costs $60. I kind of like it, but the thing is that there are actually better cases than it for the same price, which is weird to say. So this comes with just one included non-RGB fan, which is kind of poopy. The actual chassis itself is pretty nice. Side panel, nice as well. It's good to build in. I really have no issues with it. It's just there's simply better cases than it for the same price. I mean, all around is not bad, just there are better cases on this list. So I'm gonna give it a B tier, but I'm gonna give it some justice. It's gonna go right behind the Z1 Iceberg. Oh, but these next 2 cases, oof. Okay, this case kinda low-key breaks the Richter scale of this tier list video. I was gonna buy this PC case, but it went out of stock. Probably because it does a lot for its price. So this is the Bitfenix Nova Mesh. It's a micro ATX case, $60, comes with 3 addressable ARGB fans, pretty good graphics card support. I think you can fit up to, what, 345 millimeters. That's basically an RTX 4080 or a 7900 XTX taken care of right there. It's got decent radiator support. You can even fit a 280 in the front if you really wanted something that's high performance. You can fit in a fairly beefy power supply with a lot of cables that won't get in the way of your hard drive bays. And yeah, I mean, for $60, I don't see any other micro ATX case in its price range beating this as far as the overall complete package. Now, disclaimer, I've not tried this case before, but I have heard good things about the Nova Mesh in the past, and at its discounted price right now of $60, even if it's $65, it's a pretty darn good value. So it's a case for now and the future. It's not gonna turn to e-waste. The Nova Mesh is gonna sit alongside the G300A as probably the best value micro ATX case on this list at SS tier. Good job. But the round of applause doesn't stop there, because we do have the Nova Mesh SE. This is $70. So right the limit of this video, ATX includes 4 ARGB fans, so addressable. And one other really cool thing is that this comes with a fan controller inside the back of the PC case. If you look right there, this can support your ARGB and the fans all in one in this PC case, and that is super sick to see. Just the one thing that's holding this case back is that the graphics card length support is actually worse than the micro ATX case, which is weird to say. So you can't fit in like a super huge graphics card in here, but it can still fit quite a bit. But still, for $70 with all the features, all the goodies it's bringing to the table, and I assume with good build quality and good airflow, I gotta put it in S tier, right below the Nova Mesh. If graphics card length support was a bit longer, this case would be really good, but that's why we have the non-SE version of the Bitfenix Nova, which is $80, which is just outside the budget of this video. Oh, but here's another case. Here is the Gamemax micro ATX. This looks oddly familiar, or oddly similar to the Jonesbow D30. I mean, if you want an interesting looking micro ATX case that's gonna compact as much as it can into the smallest amount of size or smallest amount of space, then this can be it, but there's a much better case for only $5 more that'll be better in terms of cooling and, more importantly, the power supply. Because one thing with this case is that since it has a flat front, that power supply is gonna be facing inward, with the fan going into the actual PC case. Let me show you a photo. But as you can see, if you were to place a power supply in this PC case, the fan is gonna be facing inwards, which means any hot air generated by the graphics card or the CPU cooler could go into the power supply, which I'm not the most comfortable with recommending, especially if your components get higher end. So while this case looks cool in concept, there's a case that does it better for a little bit more, which let's get into that now. Oh, but wait, I need to rank this. C tier, but at the top. You guys are not gonna believe this. Guess the specs, guess the specs, guess the specs. Guess the specs. Can you guys see what's in there right now? Let me pull back my laptop for a second. That's a 4090, straight up. And you know what's the processor? A 13900KS. Actually, hold on. Boom. 13900KS, RTX 4090 in a micro ATX case. Okay, this is the Asus AP201. This is a micro ATX case that basically does what we just saw in that other Gamemax case, but way better. Mostly because the power supply here, the fan doesn't have to face inward into the computer, it can face outward because the front is mesh. It may be hard to see here, but we do have the power supply chilling right here. And I mean, I think it speaks for itself. You can fit in here a 4090 and a high-end CPU that can be supported with a 360mm radiator like that of the liquid freezer tool from Arctic, which is a thicker radiator. And all of this in a small micro ATX case that can even support a hard drive, which I kind of need as a video editor from time to time. Yeah, really impressive build. Doesn't work though. The motherboard is probably dead, which is gonna suck to replace. But this is eventually gonna be my new personal editing and gaming rig. But when it finishes, oh boy, it'll be a sight to see. But you know, we gotta rank that case real quick. I'm gonna give it an S tier just because it's $75. It can do a lot, as you just saw. Yes, it only comes with one pre-included case fan, but if you're buying that case, you're probably an enthusiast who's gonna do a lot with it, like you just saw, and it can do a lot in a pretty compact size. So at 75 bucks, pretty nice, pretty neat case. I'll keep it at that. So here we get into the territory of cases that I've either had experience with, but I can't show you right now, or some that are just clearly, obviously scams, and you should just not get. Like this next one from this company called Bgears b-Voguish with 1,200 ratings, AKA 1,200 views, 4.2 stars. That isn't too good of a sign actually. As you can see, I don't like this case immediately off the bat because where are you getting your airflow? Where is it? Let's look at the sides. Ooh, you got fans, but where are they drawing air from, you know? Now sure, the maximum graphics card length is actually pretty good, but that isn't enough to save this case. In fact, let's go ahead and show you some photos real quick. Here's what the front of the case looks like. So there's nothing mesh or perforated at all. It's just a flat glass panel on these three fans. Your graphics card is gonna suffocate and die, basically. Bad airflow, as this guy suggests, but still gives it a 4-star review. This case looks great in the renders, but it's not gonna go well when you upgrade your components in this case later on to higher end ones that'll need more airflow, and at that point, this case is going to become e-waste. Therefore, it is getting the first D tier in this video. Do not buy the PC case that I just showed you. Now let's go on to another one that is a bit more familiar and I've used before in the past. This is the Cooler Master Masterbox MB311L. I saw this case firsthand at CES 2019, and at the time, it was a case that the PC community really needed. They really needed a micro ATX case with a mesh front panel with included ARGB fans and some other goodies, and this at $75 at the time did it spectacularly. But it's been 4 years, and there are better micro ATX cases that have released since then. You could say this is the godfather, like this is the one that started it all for really good budget PC cases, so I gotta give it some respect. It's still pretty good. So with that in mind, I'm going to give it a B tier in front of the H1M. Just because it includes those 2 included ARGB fans, although it is 75 bucks, and I wanna say its price quite literally hasn't changed in the 4 years this case has been out. But then here's the other, more not so good cousin of the MB311L, the MB320L, and I'm just letting you know, don't get this case because it has a glass front and your graphics card is gonna suffocate and die. So for the same price, don't get that case, but it's not trash. So we're gonna put it in C tier, above, yeah, above the Zeus. But here's a Cooler Master case that is well overdue, the Q300L. This case was pretty popular back in the day because it was cheap, but it's gone up in price and people are still buying it, despite it not having a PSU cover. So you're gonna see your power supply alongside your other components and it's gonna be ugly. Now that said, it can actually support some really long graphics cards. I wanna say the graphics card support on this is like 370 millimeters, which is actually really good. But quite frankly, that doesn't really make up for the fact that this is pretty much a 6-year-old PC case that is overpriced. As you've seen already, there are much better PC case options for the same price. So we're putting the Q300L at the actually, no, we're putting it in top of D tier. Yeah, it's just outdated, and there's way better cases than it for the same price. Like the Montech Air 100. Now, this can be found online for $75, but if you live near a Micro Center, you can snag it for 60 bucks, and that makes it a really good deal. It comes with 4 addressable ARGB fans, supports micro ATX motherboards, and for the money, it's really good. It is a Montech case, so I think the build quality isn't as superb as some of the other cases I've shown you throughout this video, but still better than some of the other ones that we'll get to later on in this video. Montech is just purely focused on performance for the dollar, and that is what they provide. So depending on if you can get this at Micro Center for 60 bucks or online for even 75, it's still a fairly good case, which means I'm gonna give it an A tier ahead of the Apollo. Wait, really? Do I wanna do that? Yeah, let me do that, yeah. No, well actually, let me put that in. All right, now that makes sense. But like I was saying before, the build quality might be questionable on these Montech cases, like what is seen in the Montech X3. Now, I haven't technically used the X3 before, but I have used the X1 way back. And that case is so lightweight. The build quality is, yeah, it's, you don't feel anything premium, that's for sure. Now, yes, what this case does do really well is provide you airflow for the money. It can give you 7 non-addressable ARGB fans. I want to clarify that. These are not addressable. They are a fixed RGB, and I mean, sure, that'll do, but if you're getting that amount of fans, I'd rather get a case with less fans or even like 1 fan and invest in higher quality fans for like the front or the top. Having 7 of these that are fixed at a single RGB color that may not be the highest quality because it is a cheap case after all. Although the free ones in the front are 140 millimeters, which is kind of nice. The build quality is definitely questionable. I feel like it's an e-waste case, meaning it's gonna get a C tier from me, but I'm gonna put it at the top because it does deliver on airflow, but everything else is a little bit subpar. Now here's a case that I haven't used before, but it's so cheap I have to call it out. It is the Aresgame M1. I think this case will do the bare minimum. It has a mesh front panel, 1 included case fan, but expandability is very limited. Look at that graphics card length support, up to 310 millimeters. That's right up there with the Zeus Gamdias case we just checked out. So if you want to throw in any faster and longer graphics cards, you're gonna have to replace the whole case, meaning this is basically e-waste. Even though it's 50 bucks, if you spend just $10 or $15 more, you can get a significantly better case that'll be more future-proof, meaning Aresgame M1 is gonna get a D tier. Well, no, we're gonna get bottom of C tier. No, just for a few dollars more, you can get a significantly better case. I'm gonna put it at the top of D tier. Oh, but this next case, people bought it up and they're probably regretting it. So this is the Aerocool Cylon. It's been out for a few years. This case is just not only outdated, but it's got bad airflow. The front is completely closed off. The only airflow you're gonna get into this case panel is on the bottom. Also, the top only comes with 1 112 millimeter fan port, so there's that to keep in mind as well. And like I said, this is an old PC case. It's been out for a while. For just $10 more, you can get a much better PC case. Even if you needed something that is ATX, just get that Zalman R2 for literally $6 more. It'll be better. So I'm gonna put the Aerocool Cylon in D tier below the Aresgame M1. Oh, but this next case. Okay, the Antec NX200M. This case, on paper, isn't bad. It's just overpriced. Now, in this photo, you're given all this cool stuff, but in reality, you're only given a single 120 millimeter fan in the back of the PC case. It does have a mesh front, so it will have some decent airflow, but I feel like this case could be e-waste because the graphics card support is a little bit lacking. I take that back. It is very much lacking. It can only support up to 275 millimeters. So anything that's been released in the last 4 months, not at all happening in the NX200M. And at 60 bucks, there are other cases that do a much better job, like the Bitfenix Nova Mesh micro ATX case that is at SS tier, which means we're gonna put the NX200M at the bottom of C. Yeah, the bottom of C tier. It's just overpriced. It really should be like a $40 case with what it offers. And speaking of overpriced, this is the Antec NX410. Now, I checked out this case 2 years ago, but I bought it at I think $60 or around there in 2021. And it's gone up to $85. And there's actually, let's see. So it actually does include two 104mm fans at the front and one 120mm at the rear. And I know what you're saying, this is $85, this is out of the bounds of the video, but I bought it for 60 bucks and it's got up in price and people are buying this case. 774 ratings on Amazon. And I'm just letting you know there are much better cases like the G300A, like the Bitfenix Mesh SE, like even the Zalman Z3. There are better cases than the NX410 just because it's overpriced. Just to rank it because it's such a popular case right now, I'm gonna give it a top, it does the job, bottom B tier. Now these last two cases are pretty much gonna be rapid fire because Thermaltake have not put out any really good budget PC cases in the last few years. So the Versa H15 is an outdated case, doesn't matter how cheap it is, D tier. H17, same scenario. I don't care if it's 40 bucks, there are better cases than it. Unless you want a quiet PC case, D tier. And the Versa H18, I made this in a PC build, I wanna say 3 years ago, and it's just outdated. I mean, the chassis, everything about it, it's pretty old school. Yes, it does have a power supply shroud, but look at that interior, very basic. I'm gonna give it bottom C tier. Oh, here's the Zalman T6. So for some reason, people are buying this case. I don't know why. Zalman make much better cases than this. I just had to include it in the ranking because I kind of have to. D tier, which leaves us with the NZXT H5 Flow. So like I said at the very start of this video, the H5 Flow is technically out of the bounds of the budget of this tier list, but I'm including it nonetheless because it is going to be talked about in the comment section because unfortunately it's overpriced. As you've seen up until this point, there are some amazing ATX and micro ATX cases that can do exactly what the H5 Flow does for way less, like the G300A in particular. The H5 Flow, like I mentioned earlier, it has that sort of bottom kind of like draft towards the graphics card that can help direct air into it, which is also found in the G300A. And the H5 Flow is noted for being a really beginner-friendly case because the backside of the PC case is pretty clean in terms of cable management. The G300A does the exact same thing, and that front panel connector I was talking about is the same on both of these cases. It's just a single connector. So really all you're paying for with the H5 Flow for that, say, $25 premium over the G300A, it's just the name. If the looks mean to you that much, then that's all right. I think the G300A, when maxed out, looks really great on its own, especially with those 3 front A RGB fans. But there's nothing inherently wrong with the H5 Flow. It's just overpriced. So for that, I gotta give it top of B tier. Like I said, nothing wrong with the PC case. It just really should be priced more at, say, $80 at most. After all, you're only given 2 non-RGB fans in the PC case. One here at the bottom and one here at the rear. And in the G300A, you can get up to 3 ARGB fans that are Phanteks ARGB fans, by the way. Pretty high quality for about $25 less. So there you have it. This is my tier list of the best budget PC cases in 2023. Take a good look at it. This is gonna be a long video, but I'm gonna do it nonetheless. So if you appreciate the sacrifice I'm gonna make editing this however long of a video it is, then please give this video a like. And if you like what I've created so far, then go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I am uploading more frequently now, that is for certain. So with all of that said, thank you so much for watching, and this is the Scatterable channel, signing out.